guys, welcome back to The Bright Side. Macy here, the Bright Side Girl, and today we are doing my November audiobook wrap-up. So these are going to be all of the books I listened to in November. I posted my reading wrap-up yesterday. I'll link that down below in the description if you guys are interested, because I wound up reading, I think, 6 or 7 books, and I listened to 5 audiobooks. This wound up being a very small audiobook month for me for a couple of reasons. One, we were on vacation for about 9 days, and while I got a lot of audiobook time in while we were actually traveling, like flying and stuff, I didn't do any audiobook listening while we were like on the cruise ship. So I missed out like on a week of listening to audiobooks there. And then also I wasted like, I don't know, 7 or 8 hours listening to a certain audiobook and I didn't wind up finishing it. And then I listened to 2 hours of a different audiobook and didn't wind up finishing it. Overall, still a really great audiobook month. I know that 5 books is a lot of audiobooks to listen to, but I do work from home, so I have a lot of listening time and I like to listen when I drive places and things like that as well. So the only book that I listened to that was on my TBR for this month that I just wound up getting to was Stolen from the Heart of Dread series by Melissa De La Cruz and Michael Johnston. This is book 2 in the Heart of Dread series. So first book being Frozen. I can't give away too much since it's a sequel, but I really enjoyed it. It's just a really fun, fast-paced fantasy slash sci-fi adventure story. There's like kind of dragon-esque things and the world's frozen over and there's lots of magic and it's just, you kind of have to suspend your belief, but it's just a really, really fun read and it's a really fast audiobook. I'm not a big fan of the girl narrator for this one, which I can't remember her name, but Dan Bitner is the male narrator for this book and he does a really good job for the guy voices and the guy portion. So anyway, really enjoy it. I think I gave this one 3.5 stars because I didn't like it quite as much as Frozen, but it was still a good read. I just wanted to dive into this one for some reason, I think because it's got more of a wintry vibe. So I decided to listen to Wicked Lovely by Melissa Marr. This is book 1 of a 5 or 6 book series. The narrator for this book was Alyssa Bresnanan or something like that. She did a really good job. I really liked her. And I really, really enjoyed the story. It's got the summer and winter courts and all that kind of stuff. So this one starts off with like the Ice Queen and then the Ice Prince, and there's a girl. It's like an urban fantasy, and there is a girl and she can see fairies. It's like in her bloodline that she can see fairies and they don't really know that she can see them. And so you're kind of figuring out why that is. And then I can't remember if it's the Summer Prince or the Winter Prince winds up like pursuing her to make her his queen, and it's just it was really, really good. This is my first like true fae story that was about fairies and not just has fairies in the story. So I really liked it quite a bit and I listened to it pretty quickly. I think I listened to it while I was on my cruise mostly, and I finished it on there, and it was very wintry, and it has the summer stuff too, but it has like a really wintry, icy vibe, and so I really liked that one for November. Because of that one, I dove into Ink Exchange by Melissa Marr as well. This is book 2. The narrator for this one was, it switched to a male narrator, Nick Landrum, and apparently he's like kind of popular because they were kind of like pushing like, ooh, this is narrated by Nick Landrum, who I'm pretty sure narrates another book that I didn't really get into. I just found his narration style like more boring. I just couldn't get into it. He just has a more dull narration, and I just really liked the girl that narrated it so much more, and I felt like it wasn't the book, it was the narrator that was bothering me, and it just made me like not want to finish it. So I think I am going to switch and read the physical book probably more like in January, because I was enjoying it and we follow our same characters but then a new character too. I just really couldn't get into the narration, so this one was like not a DNF but like a half finished book. Then on my trip, I started Delirium by Lauren Oliver. Finally, I wanted something like dystopian and fast-paced after I physically read Illuminate, and I just was like really into the pacing, and I've been wanting to read this one for a long time. And so I started this one, and it's narrated by Sarah Drew, who narrated Before I Fall, Lauren's other book. She narrates quite a few of Lauren Oliver's books, and I really like her narration. I think her like teenager voice and like cadence and all that stuff is perfect for, especially for Lauren Oliver's writing style, and I really liked this one. So if you're not familiar, this is a dystopian series all about based on love and how we have surgery at like 17 or 18 to do something to our brain to make us not love, and no one's allowed to be in love. Like, you're matched with your spouse, and if you're seen being too affectionate with your spouse, then you can get in trouble or you could get killed, and it's like totally against love because they're saying that love breeds passion and violence and hate and fighting, and they're basically just trying to keep everybody as kind of like a zombie state where they're just like going with the motions and making everything like easy and boring. So our lead character is grown up in this world and she's used to this, and she has watched her mom have some more passion and life to her, and she doesn't really understand why, and they think that love is a disease called the deliria, and if you have the disease then you can spread the disease and all of this stuff. So it's, again, suspended belief because just how dystopian books are. Like, I don't know, this one was a little bit more far-fetched for me, but I love Lauren Oliver's writing, and I'm really excited that I finally read another book by her, and I really enjoyed our main character, and I thought it was very fast-paced and lyrical and pretty, and I'm really, really enjoying it, even though it's not like my favorite dystopian of all time and it's kind of silly in some ways. I'm still really, really liking it. Skip ahead a little bit because I did start Pandemonium and I finished this one today. It's like December 2nd, so I finished it a little early. Same thing, narrated by Sarah Drew as well, and so is Requiem. I can't say much about this one since it's the sequel, but we're following along again in that same story, and I had a really big cliffhanger at the end of book 1, so I was really excited to go into this one. This one has like a whole like journey aspect where you're like following along and traveling. It has like a traveling vibe to it. It's very different from the other dystopian books that I've read as far as just where the second book went. There are some cliche things in here that I kind of predicted were gonna happen and things that happened at the end, but I'm really curious to see how they play out, because even though I predicted what was gonna happen like at the end of this book, I'm not really sure where it's gonna go from here on out. So that'll be fun and interesting and I think controversial, but it had a really good cliffhanger, and I really did enjoy this one almost as much as the first one. So I gave Delirium 4 stars. I think I'm giving Pandemonium 3.5, maybe 4 stars. I think it's gonna kind of depend on how Requiem goes. I am really interested in it. It's not, again, not my favorite dystopian, but Lauren Oliver's writing style is just so fun and easy, and Sarah Drew's narration is just really nice to listen to, and I didn't really ever want to stop listening to it, so that's a sign of like a really good audiobook. So we'll see how book 3 goes, and I'm sure that will be in my December wrap-up. Then lastly, sort of, I listened to Gemina on audio, and this is book 2 in the Illuminae files. This has a full cast recording, so I cannot credit people. I don't want to credit people because there's just so many of them, but there are so many good narrators in here. If you're not familiar with the Illuminae files, they're basically, this is a sci-fi book, and it is told in file format. There are chat logs and files and footage being transcribed, and there's an AI that has journal entries and like all kinds of crazy things. This is one of the most unique reading experiences that I've ever had. You can go watch my reading wrap up to hear all about Illuminae, and I talk about Gemina there as well. So this is going to be a little bit of a repeat since I physically read and listened to it, because I think for this series that is the way to go. It was such an amazing experience and it was so different. Sometimes while you listen to audiobooks, you have a tendency to get distracted, but because I was also physically reading it and getting the journal entries and all the drawings and all the chat logs, I wasn't distracted. And then because I was reading it and also getting all of the different voices and characters, I didn't get lost at all. Like, I think it's easy to get lost in this story, whether you physically read it or listen to the audiobook, but if you do both together, it's just like absolutely perfect. This gave me chills. I loved the drawings in here are from Marie Lu, which is really exciting. It was just so well done. It gave me goosebumps. It's one of my favorite reads of the year. I gave it 5 stars. The full cast recording was just mind-blowingly good. It was just so amazing. I wish I had listened to Illuminae as well, but I am doing Obsidio on audio and reading it at the same time, so that'll be in my December wrap-up. Oh, I love this series so much. It's so good. I totally understand the hype now, but I do recommend listening to it and reading it. It takes a little bit longer, but it is so worth it, and you just want to keep reading because it doesn't have chapters. It just has chat logs and journal entries and all that stuff, and so it doesn't really ever stop, so you don't really ever want to stop reading it. But basically this is about Illuminate is about a group of people that are mining on a specific planet for something called Hermium, which is just like a valuable resource, and this big company finds out about it, and they didn't know that they could mine there, and so instead of like turning the people in, they decide to just go in and attack them. And so it's basically about them being on that planet and then also like escaping on a spaceship. So there's all these different perspectives that you're getting from like the big company itself, and then the people on the planet, and then people on the spaceship, and it's so good. And it's got creepy, scary things too, like plague and just an AI that's a little bit too intelligent, and oh, it's just all that sci-fi goodness that you love. I think you would like this even if you don't like sci-fi. I do like sci-fi, so I can't really say, but the audio and the reading experience together were just like, it was something I'd never experienced before, and I loved it so much. And lastly, I did DNF a book this month, which is partially why I only have 5 books, because I listened to like 3 hours of Ink Exchange. And then I also tried to listen to Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy. Okay, I listened to City of Heavenly Fire, the last book in the Mortal Instruments, on audio, and it was a painful experience. It was so long. I wasn't a huge fan of the male narrator. I liked Sophie Turner's narration, but I didn't like the male narrator, which I think might have been Nick Landrum, who narrates Ink Exchange. I can't remember. If not, it was very similar. And then I'm listening to Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, and first of all Cassandra Clare books are pretty much like a 3.5 for me, except for a couple that I gave a 4. I'm not like overly in love with the Shadowhunters, and so the Tales from the Shadowhunter Academy, I'm just not like super loving it. I really just wanted to jump into Lady Midnight, but then some people were like, well, there's spoilers or things you won't understand. And so I was like, fine, I'll just read it. But I wanted to finish them all before the end of the year so I could read Queen of Air and Darkness, but I'm just like, I've lost my momentum now, and I will read it eventually. But I got to get through this Tales of the Shadowhunter Academy, and I think I'm going to physically read it because I'm just really not enjoying the narrators. Maybe it's the story, but I think I'm not enjoying the narrators. I think that's the problem. It just seems so boring to me, and I just don't care. So motivate me if you guys love like Lady Midnight and all that stuff. I will finish it, but I got like 7 hours in and I have like 10 to go or something, and it's just so long. So I am bummed because I wanted to read all of Cassandra Clare books by the end of the year, but I'm just not loving them enough to like really push myself, and I have so many other things that I want to get to. So I did have that one that I DNF'd as well. But those are all the audiobooks I listened to in November. I'm going to have a pretty big audiobook wrap up for December because I'm listening to a lot of Christmas and holiday books, and they're all like really short. So stay tuned for that if you're interested in that. I have a lot of like end of the year videos coming that are revolved around audiobooks and stuff too. So it's going to be exciting. Thank you guys so much for watching. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and sometimes on the weekends. And I will see you guys next time on the bright side. Bye!